I really do feel like SaGa is just like a really misunderstood series. Many people consider it to be Square Enix's like black sheep, and they just go on and on and on about how hard or complicated it is. But really, it's just different, and to be quite honest, there's nothing wrong with different. Now, don't get me wrong, some of these do go off the deep end a little bit, but for the most part though, SaGa games are some great experiences, and here I want to rank all 11 of the Western releases from worst to best. Hi there everybody, I'm David, and if you're new to the channel, please be sure that you subscribe for more top 10s, news, and reviews, and also smash that like button to show your love. And now, let's go ahead and get started ranking one of the great granddaddies of RPGs itself, SaGa. First up, at number 11, we have Unlimited SaGa, released on the PS2. My god, what a dumpster fire this thing was. I do applaud them for trying something new, but how this thing ever got past like the playtesting phase is beyond me. Unlimited SaGa marked a change in the series, where no longer are you going to be exploring dungeons or even really towns or even a world map. Instead, this leans heavily into a board game aesthetic, but it doesn't really explain anything at all to you. And you're just kind of like left floundering in the wind, as every single action that you take is dependent upon a roll of the dice and RNG, and that just sucks. Topped it off with a boatload of missables and a limited amount of side quests to boot, and you can easily screw yourself and just be completely stuck by the endgame with nothing at all that you can do about it. And if there's a game that I would ever describe as like broken, it's this one. Avoid this at all costs, because it's not just a bad SaGa game, but a bad game in general. Number 10, SaGa Frontier 2, released for the PlayStation. Okay, we're safe now, that dumpster fire is gone, so we can actually talk about some playable games. And for this, I do have a soft spot in my heart, and that's probably nostalgia speaking. Even though it is second to last, I still do like it despite all of its flaws. But looking at it with a critical eye and ranking it, the only true positive that I could really think about was the graphical style. It's absolutely beautiful, and I can't knock that. But what I can knock is the lack of protagonists. Here, you only have 2, and to be quite honest, you use one of them like 90% of the time, as well as a revolving door cast of characters where you are constantly getting new party members, and they don't inherit any skills of your old party members. So that makes grinding anybody else except for like your main character pretty much just a complete waste of time, and that's just so frustrating. Add to the fact all the complicated progression that SaGa is so famous for, and yeah, there's a reason why it's so low on this list. Number 9, The Final Fantasy Legend. Originally released for the Game Boy, and then later remade for the WonderSwan Color, and also ported over to the Switch, mobile, and PC. Don't get me wrong, I like this game, but I'm also aware that it can be extraordinarily archaic by today's standards. I mean, this was the first SaGa game ever made, and it does feature permadeath. Also, the way that mutants learn spells is kind of janky, the monsters are really underpowered, and the humans, they're nothing but a grind. But underneath all that, there's still a good game to be had. Though I must say getting past all that old game design is a Herculean task for many gamers nowadays. But if you are able to do that and look past that, you will find a compelling game where you traverse 4 elementally themed worlds and then climb up a tower to paradise to ultimately kill God. You know, this is a JRPG after all, and you just can't like not kill God, you just have to. It's the rules. Number 8, Romancing SaGa 2. Originally released for the SNES, then later remastered for the PS Vita, Switch, Xbox PC, and mobile. Piggybacking off the success of Dragon Quest V, SaGa wanted to try their hand at a generational system too, and as such, this actually tells a much more intimate story than many of the other SaGa games, insofar as it's not like a world-spanning epic. Instead, you play as an emperor of your own kingdom as you fulfill side quests and discover what's going on in the neighboring kingdoms, as well as ultimately defend your realm from, get this, the 7 legendary heroes of yore who previously saved the world. But now, they're hell-bent on destroying it. The whole thing is pretty intriguing and interesting. As you set off to explore and defend your kingdom, of course you will grow older and you'll eventually get replaced by one of your offspring. And each time that you do, you'll inherit your old skills and you'll get a chance to change your class. It's a strange but interesting take on a generation formula that's still woefully underutilized in most RPGs. Number 7. Romancing Saga Minstrel Song. Originally released on the SNES, then later remastered for the PS2, and then remastered again for the Switch, PS4, PS5, PC, and mobile. Really, at this point, we've hit that race to the top. The bad and the archaic games are behind us, and there's really only some fantastic games in front of us. This takes place in the world of Mardius, where the evil god Sauron is imprisoned by 10 Fate Stones, and the story focuses on 8 characters who each have their own backstories and who each vie to recover the Fate Stones and defeat Sauron once more. I really do wish that this game, and the rest of the Romancing Saga series really, was released back on the SNES back in the day in America, because I could really see myself getting lost in the stories presented here, especially back when I had all the time in the world as a kid. This was the first time that glimmering was introduced to the series, as well as standard stat raising for all the characters, regardless of their race, and it really did seem to work out quite well. Number 6. SaGa Frontier. Originally released for the PlayStation, then later remastered for the PS4, Switch, mobile, and PC. Just like many SaGa games, you can choose from a lot of different characters to be your hero, but what sets this apart from the other games in the series is that the characters don't exist in the same world. Instead, the game takes place in what is known as the regions, which is essentially like a large solar system, and each protagonist lives on their own planet. However, just because you start on one planet doesn't mean that you stay there the entire game. You can freely travel between the many regions, interacting with the other characters and taking part in combat. But unlike the Romancing Saga games, now different races level up and gain powers differently. And while each protagonist has their own storyline and main quests to fulfill, that can easily change depending on the choices that you make in conversation, what events have already occurred, and who is actually in your party, which makes this a really deep and complex entry to the series. Number 5. Final Fantasy Legend III. Originally released for the Game Boy, then later remade for the Nintendo DS, and also ported on over the Switch, mobile, and PC. I personally adore this game. I don't care what anybody else says. Yeah, I know that it's not like a true saga, and it was developed by the same team as Final Fantasy Mystic Quest rather than, the SaGa team, but that in and of itself does not make it a bad game. All that means is that it's different from the rest of the SaGa games. But we all know that SaGa prides itself on being different. However, in this case, the difference is definitely good because it also makes it so accessible. This one is easily the most traditional of all the SaGa games, giving you 4 party members right from the start who level up in a traditional experience point fashion, use weapons normally, and cast spells using MP, just like a normal RPG. But what really puts this over the top is the time traveling aspect, as you're going to be traveling with the past, present, and future to stop the Pure Land water entity from flooding the world. Not only that, but you're also able to travel to Floatland, as well as the Pure Land alternate dimension too. So if you're looking for a good time travel RPG, do not pass this one up. Number 4. SaGa Scarlet Grace. Released for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Vita, mobile, and PC. All the newer SaGa games have tried to lean into that board game aesthetic, but thankfully, only Unlimited SaGa had absolutely disastrous results. The latest 2 games actually did it right, letting you choose your characters from the get-go and then setting you loose to explore a world map as well, but it's also trimmed down the fat, insofar as you can no longer explore towns, because those are now menu-driven, and diving into a dungeon is pretty much just like a series of battles. But here, those battles are super strategic. You can't just go all out and attack all the time. You really gotta play a little bit more on the defensive side, and use status effects, and definitely pay attention. But on the same token, it's not exhausting, because there aren't any random battles either. Every single battle is meaningful, and the quests are long and involved, really fleshing out your characters, as well as the world's story. This is definitely a hidden gem in the series. Number 3. Romancing Saga 3. Originally released for the SNES, and later remastered for the Vita, Switch, Xbox, PC, and mobile. This is a neat game, and easily the best of the Romancing Saga trilogy. It goes back to the basics, where you can choose one of 8 party members, all of whose stories are intertwined with one another, as they then set off on their own separate journeys to learn more about the Death Eclipse, as well as the birth of the evil or holy kings. But who has time to wait for all that when the world is under attack by a demonic invasion? So instead, your hero decides that it's up to them to seal away the 4 abyss gates. The free scenario system is back with a vengeance, where you're pretty much able to go exactly where you want to, when you want to, recruiting more party members into your retinue. What I think I like about it best, though, is just how intertwining each character's storyline is. Yeah, they all have their own motivations, but it's not like they're like completely separate from one another either. It's definitely a nice balance and a fan favorite for a reason. Number 2, SaGa Emerald Beyond. Released for the Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, mobile, and PC. 3 words: Emerald Wave System. Why couldn't we get something like this like 30-something years ago? Or, at least a quest tracker or something to let us know what to do, rather than forcing us to all go out and buy a guidebook, or go online to see who it is you have to talk to, or what it is you have to do, in order to progress through some of the more perplexing side quests that SaGa just loves to throw at you. There is nothing more frustrating than not knowing the exact NPC to talk to for a side quest, or even worse, putting the game down for like a week, and then picking it back up, and not knowing what the hell to do. But the newest entry in the series solves that, and the combat reminds me a lot of Scarlet Grace, just a bit more refined, fun, and fast-paced, also with a sprinkling of SaGa Frontier's race and progression system thrown in for good measure too. Not only that, but the multiple world concept is back with 17 to explore, more than any other SaGa game. It's gotta take a lot to top this, but one entry does, and that's our number 1, Final Fantasy Legend II. Originally released for the Game Boy, then later remade for the Nintendo DS, and also ported over the Switch, mobile, and PC. I adore this game. I love it. I don't care what anybody else says about its age. Just because a game is old does not mean that it's bad. In fact, many times the opposite is true. There is beauty in its simplicity, as here you choose a party of 4 members, from humans, mutants, monsters, and robots, each with their own special strengths and weaknesses, as well as different growth patterns. And then you traverse over 11 different worlds full of diverse cultures as you search for the 77 Magi and your long-lost father. Unlike the newer games, this is so much more traditional. You have towns that you can explore, NPCs to talk to, dungeons to delve into, and all sorts of amazing treasures to find to outfit your team. This to me is the best of both worlds. It is the openness of SaGa along with the linearity of Final Fantasy, but with endless replay value thrown in for good measure. But also, there's something here, something else that can't be measured or quantified, and that's its fun factor. This just exudes fun from every single pixel, and even today, I am still known to have it listed up there as one of my favorite games of all time. So that's it for all the SaGa games ranked from worst to best. How would you rank them, and what are your favorites? Let's get a discussion going on here, and let's all talk and chat about it, because I'm always in the comments too. And if you like what I do here on the channel, please head on over to the Patreon to sign up for early access to my videos, as well as behind the scenes photographs. The link to it is over in the video description. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good day.